Hey guys, it's Ben with Practical Junk, and we've been going on a quail journey. Here in my little Barra family quail, we have just really enjoyed this. But I tell you what, the biggest thing that I've been battling is baby chick food waste, how to effectively work with the watering system. And I did a food waste video 1, and I've implemented a lot of that. And I've had a few hatchets since I've done that. I've had a lot of ideas. So I have tweaked quite a few things. I have heavily modified my feeder and had a great idea how to make that more efficiently. So you know what? I really hope you guys enjoy this. We're going to kind of go through the clips so you kind of see how I'm doing things and how I'm developing the method. And check out my other videos on how I'm making my 3/4 inch little stands to raise my food and water. And also on how I'm gonna make a food containment box. And then a third video on how I modified my feeder. But check the clips out, wait till the end, like, subscribe. The results are phenomenal because I cut my food cost by probably 65 to 70%. We're gonna be weighing the food here really soon just to get some exact results on that. But man, I'm really amazed at how everything's working out, and it's going to help me make some changes in the future, because we are going to do a food waste experiment number 3. I'm going to put some more thought into things, kind of see how everything's working based off of what I've learned during this food waste experiment. But I tell you what, I am very happy with the results. I'm not sure how much more I can improve upon them. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It is definitely going to give you a different perspective on how to do things and how you can improve how you're going to brood your baby quail in the future. Enjoy. Well, the first thing we did, I got the coffee grinders out, and I went out and I took this crumble and we blended it up just as coarse as it would go. That's the first step that I learned into cutting my food cost. We've modified our feeder. We're going to set up our blue towels the same way we did in the first experiment. We've got these new boxes we just built. We're going to test those out as well. So hopefully they kind of help a little bit, not even just containing the food, but making it easier to clean them after the fact. So it's time to get the brooder set up, because guess what? It's time to put some chicks in here. Now, something I did, you can't hardly see it, but I got a little mark right here. So I'll set my towels up here, come over here and cut them. That way it gives me a perfect fit inside the brooder, and I don't have to be tearing off a bunch of towels. Here. I love having dual systems. Let's say this light fails or that light fails. I've had them, you know, when I first started, I had a brooder and had one of these fail, and guess what? Man, it was really bad. Yeah, lost some chicks. I got my little dustpan. I've cleaned up all the food from chick day, where I just put food on the ground. I'm gonna go ahead and double up and raise this. I've got my new box built correctly. And now we're going to get this centered. I'm going to top off this feeder, and we're going to see how these guys do with this. And you can see right here with that raised up right at about 1.25 inches, they can reach that food just fine. You know, they're just tall enough to get up there to it. You know, so raising a feeder is paramount to keeping them out of it and to keep the food waste down. But I wanted them to learn the first 24 hours where the food was, how to get to it, let them eat, let them get their stability in their legs under them, which they're right at about 2.5 days old now, but they can reach up there just fine. It's the perfect height for them.
let's get this topped off, and now we're gonna manage and keep an eye out and see how much food waste we have around this feeder. I'm like absolutely shocked right now, but I've had these in here about 3 hours, and this little feeder is doing its job. Like, there's no food waste anywhere. I'm trying to make sure it's flowing. Yeah, it's still flowing just fine. Well, I picked the feeder up. I thought it wasn't flowing food for a second, but it's flowing perfectly fine. There's no issues. Okay, so this little modification's doing a really good job. I mean, it's doing an amazing job. I've got about 20 chicks in here. As you can see, there's like hardly any food on the ground at all. And you know what's bad is they've been eating it. But this little modification so far is stopping a considerable amount of food waste. So the feeder is doing its job. I see very little food on the ground. Raising it up another level, I think, has helped significantly. There's like no food outside of this box, which means they're eating off the ground a little bit that they are knocking down. All right, so coming back to double check on these guys for like the 4th time today, or 3rd. There's no food. There's just a little bit here and there, but not much at all. But I don't think my feeder is feeding. I don't think they're strong enough quite yet to be pecking at this to get it to flow really well. So what I've done is I went ahead and came in here and I raised this little restricting piece I've put in here. Raised it just enough to get the next size up into it, which that's right at about 1/8 of an inch, a little bit higher than the other space I had on it. So I'm gonna give this back to them and see how it does. Check this out. There's like, because I raised the water up and I keep my feeder separated to the other side, there's no poo, there's no feed been put in there. And again, I've raised that up. This is about a 3/4 inch block. So I've got my water raised up as well. And normally I don't raise it this quick. But you know what? No pebbles, no stones in it. And it's still nice and clean and nobody's got wet. All right, it is day 4 food waste check. And there's a lot of poo. But there's a little bit of speckle and crumble, just a little bit here and there. And then inside here, there's just a little bit. Just a minimal food waste. Got just, but you know what? The feeder is flowing just enough. It's not flowing much, but just enough to keep that full. I came here earlier and I noticed it was low, so they've came back over here. They've pecked at it, and it's doing what it's supposed to. And I mean, look at the food savings. Like, this is day 4, and slowing the feed flow is cutting the waste back so much that all I see is dollar signs being saved. I was going through like one of these a day, so I'm really getting tickled over the results of this. I've still got 3 chicks that have hatched yesterday, so I'm gonna get them in here. I'm gonna give them till tomorrow to get their legs and balance over them. And unfortunately, I'm gonna be raising this up soon. I'm gonna put the other one in here because I am seeing just a little bit of food waste around here. But I am seeing just a little bit of food waste around here, and that means they are kicking it out, and we don't want that. So we're gonna be raising this up, and we'll do that tomorrow. And I'm probably gonna go ahead and wait till tomorrow to clean the brooder I'll change out the towels. Now these towels, because I have a little mini air filter in here, you can probably hear it running, but all this poo's dried out. Between that and me having it on wire, it dries the poo out really good, so it's not like it's sopping wet or nasty in here. Here in just a minute, I'm gonna get my little broom and I'm gonna sweep most of the poo up to some semi-clean it, and then we'll go ahead and strip these blue towels out tomorrow. We'll put the new box in tomorrow evening. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put my redesign and test this insert for the feeder and see how that works as well. Yep, coming along really well. I went ahead and changed my insert on my feeder. So you, I don't know if you can see that good, but there we go. I got that changed up. So we're gonna give this a run, which it's flowing with about the same amount. So have good expectations for it. I'm gonna go ahead and start modifying the other one. We're gonna top our water off, rinse it off. We're gonna go ahead and add we're gonna raise our water up another 5/8. And as you can see right there, I raised this feeder already an inch. They're technically 5 days old, but, well, most of them are. Had a few hatched late, but you see how they can just easily get into that feeder? I'm gonna raise that up another board today. That way they, it doesn't make it so easy for them to get in there and peck their heads around. As you can see them doing it, they'll, kind of keep their heads left to right with their beaks and throw food out. I am seeing just a little bit of food around the feeder, which is actually not that much, which means they are pecking it off. See, there's a little bit in there. But you know what? If you look around the feeder, outside of that box, there's hardly any, which that means this box design is containing the food and they're gonna eat it off the floor. But today, I've got to get these blue towels changed. I've got to raise my feeder. I've got to raise my water, and we're gonna put the taller box in here to help better contain the food. All right, let's kind of do an overview of some of the changes that we're making today. Just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that I've just tweaked just a little bit. First thing we're doing is we're gonna double the height of our chick water, which if you wanna know how I did this, I actually have a video on chick watering systems. Check that out. So we're gonna go ahead and raise that. Now these guys are already like going nuts on this food. But I originally made this 3-stack to grow them out on for 2 weeks. But in this experiment and tracking what I'm doing, it's only technically day 5. I mean, it's day 4 checking everything. But I need to make some more of these, or I need to get some thicker material, which I'm gonna have to work on that this weekend and remake some of this, because if they're only 5 days old and I have this thing raised up 1.25 inches, then that tells me is I was not raising this up enough at all. I need to be raising it, or I need to make a hanger for my feeder to raise it as they grow. But we're going ahead, we're gonna raise that up again today. And now something else that I've done, I put another layer of blue towel underneath our food containing box is what I've done. Now you're probably wondering why I put another layer here. Because of these lines. They have little thread, like tear lines. Well, the one in the paper towel underneath it is, or the blue towel is here. So I put another towel over it here. That's gonna help keep the food in here. It's not just gonna be falling through. And I didn't stretch this paper towel, like pull it and I tried to keep that line closed at the where you tear it. I wish I could find me a roll of paper towels that did not have any tearaways on it. Something I'm gonna have to look into. But let's go ahead and get our feeder set up. I went ahead and refilled it. Didn't take much. Something else I did is I made these came out of a 5-gallon bucket. But what I did is I cut this in half. I wrapped some duct tape around it. And the reason why I cut the plug maybe a 1/4 inch is because it was like an inch long and I couldn't really fill my feeder up that much, which is making this inefficient. So I cut that down so that way there's not as much of a plug going into it. Now that duct tape really does a good job. I mean, I can pick this feeder up by this. Raising this up, they're only 5 days old, to 1 1/4 inches is the perfect height for them. These guys grow so rapidly. And as you can see, they're spilling food. I did, when I refilled it and moving it, I kind of filled the tray up. But they'll pick all that up, and they're, the box is gonna contain the food, so they'll eat what's on the floor. And as you can see, raising that box up, doubling the height on that, they can crawl over it just fine at this age. So they're doing really well with that. I mean, even the younger chick, which that's a baby chick, he crawled right over it. I mean, he's only 2 days old. And that kind of makes me wonder the next hatch. I might just go ahead and implement this after maybe a day. Once I know their legs are under them good, I might just go ahead and put the taller food retaining box around it. And see, that's a baby right there. He just crawled over that no problem at all. All right, here is my poop tray, which I have not cleaned since day one. As you can see this line right here, that's why I doubled up the paper towels, because at the tear line, food falls through it. So what's gonna happen now, since I doubled it, if food is going in it, it just can't fall through. It's gonna fill it up on top, and they'll be able to eat it, and it'll cut that way down. See, right here's where they were kicking the food into that corner where the line was. And guess what? Since I doubled the paper towel, it's gonna put a stop to that. And right here is where the other line was, when they were kicking the food out. But I've got minimal food waste in this pan. I mean, as you can see, the box is keeping any food waste contained to this side. So adding the paper towel is gonna help cut this down. Man, I mean, I love seeing these results, because I remember my stomach used to cringe when I pulled my poo trays out, because I'd have this huge mound of food, underneath the paper towels, where it was just wasted and wasted. So I love pulling this out, and I don't even have to really clean it. But I am going to sweep all this out. That way, now that we've got the other paper towel, we've raised up our little food containers, the food containing square that we made, so I can check it tomorrow and see how much of a difference that's made. All right, so it is day 6, and man, I tell you what, these guys are getting bigger, and they've eaten as much on day 6 as they ate the first 3 days. As they grow, they get more ferocious, and it's so crazy, the size difference. I mean, look at that little guy. He hatched, I think, 3 days later compared to that one. That's just crazy. But as you can tell, there's a lot of poo in here, and I just cleaned this yesterday. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do is, I do a cheat day, just depending on how bad it is. I'll get my little dustpan and little hand brush. I'll pull everything out. I'll sweep up the poo. What's crazy is this is a little homemade air filter with a computer fan on it. I need to take this out and blow it out, but it's constantly circulating air, and that's one reason this poo is dry.
You take that with the paper towels on the bottom, and since I have wire on the bottom, it really does a good job of, you know, keeping the clumpy, nasty feet down. But let's get this cleaned up. I'm not gonna bother putting more food in it. I mean, there's like none. There's just a slight bit of crumble in here, just slight. Huh? I'm looking over this, and this is like the least amount of food I've actually found on the floor, and that is a very good sign. Humidity. We're going to do a quick check on our pump trays, and look at that, no feed whatsoever. Doubling that paper towel to cover up the cracks. No feed waste at all in my tray from yesterday. Got a little bit of poop where that paper towel pulled back, but no food at all in my poo tray. It looks like me doing this little angle here has really done its job. And also putting this in here earlier. I mean, last time I did a double, I think, I had to go back and watch the video. I think it was like after a week. But raising this up so much earlier has definitely done the trick. I'm actually gonna make another one of these tomorrow. I'm gonna make it another level, or another 1/2 inch, I do believe, taller, because they can hop over this just fine at this age, which tells me that this box, next experiment, I'm gonna put this one in here at like day 2. Yeah, seriously, day 2. That guy's only 2 days old, and he can get over that just fine. So what I need to do is I need to go ahead and make another box a little bit taller, because here in a couple of days I'm going to switch it out, because I want to keep the food inside this box, because they're clearly eating it off the ground, which is cutting food waste down, and it's containing everything. But yeah, they are eating what's in here. This is containing the food. There's no food waste in my tray. There's no food in here, which I'm gonna sweep everything up, and then we're gonna take another look at it and see if there's any poo or any feed in the poo. Still, food waste is way down. I mean, if there's 4 times that amount in this poo out of 1/3 of a container of food, I still consider that some significant food savings. And plus, that's like dust. That's the really fine stuff. So it's not that much, maybe a couple of teaspoons in here. I realized that me actually raising the water like day 1 and then raising it sooner than I normally have, I haven't had to clean this. I think I've had maybe a little bit of stuff in the water, which that's never happened before, but it's because I'm raising the water to their level, so they have to reach up and drink it. They're not able to kick a bunch of junk in here. And also keeping the water on this end of my brooder, and then putting the feeder on this end, instead of, like I see people put them side by side. Well, you're just cross-contaminating. It's like opening it up from them to eat, run over, peck, and put feed into the water, and also kick, because it's their natural function to want to, it's just their instinct. They like to scratch and kick while they're eating. But another thing which kind of was like, yeah, I had one of the moments. I realized I was raising this wall the same height as the feeder. So pretty much, if they can climb over this wall, they can get into the feeder. So next food waste experiment, which I'm gonna do a 3, we're gonna play around and maybe raise things and do things slightly
differently. But right now, what I'm doing is giving me the best results. I mean, my food waste is cut down. There's barely any food being wasted. The box is doing its job. My food containment box is what I'm going to call it. It's doing its job. Making this the way I did, it's very easy to clean up. So everything's going really well. But again, me being me, we're going to continue this. I'm going to be remaking a few things tomorrow, just to improve upon them. All right, so as you can see here, there is maybe just a couple little specks of food. It is days 7, I think. I'm losing track of my days now. Right here is the amount of food. They've eaten a little bit less than 2/3. So I'm not even gonna bother filling this food up. I'll fill it up tomorrow. The water, they drank about half the water, and that's all right. I am gonna sweep all this poo up. I mean, my fan's doing his job, the poo's dried out. Well, I am about to work on making some thicker little stands so I can raise this a little bit higher. So I'm gonna go get a 2x6 and I'm gonna make a platform to go underneath this. And I'm also gonna make another one for this, which I'm a little wary of making this too tall, but the way the little insert right there sits in the bottom of this, it holds it on there pretty steady. And then, I mean, the same with this one, that sits up inside of it, which you can see my build on these. But I'm gonna work on those to raise these higher, and tomorrow I'm gonna be making another one of these. I'm gonna raise it up another 1/4 of an inch, maybe a 1/2 inch. Still debating on that, but I'm gonna do a video on that as well, which you can check it out. All right, it's day 9. You know, day 8, we didn't have any waste. Today we didn't have any waste. Well, it's like minimal, like so minuscule, I'm not even worried about it. But what they did get today were these new little platforms that I made. Ah, yeah, they matched the feeder. That's cute, isn't it? Redid the insert. Now, right now, I've got it raised 2 1/4. Raised it another 3/4 of an inch. And that's just enough for them to reach up to it. And I also made me another little platform for that water to go on, which I need to raise that up. Yeah, I think they'll be good with that. Yeah, I think they're gonna be fine with that height. But the feeder, I think that's right at the perfect height for them, right at 9 days old. Even the younger ones are still able to reach up there and get to it. That little one right there, yep, he was one of my late hatches. He can reach up there and get to it just fine. So, got these new little platforms to stack my feeder on and my water. So we're just gonna keep an eye on them. This experiment's going really well. I do believe I'm gonna put this box on there a little bit earlier than 9 days though, because the one I had in here before, the 1.5 inch one, I want to start that on like day 2 or 1, and then I'll probably put this in here on like day 5 or 6, because they can hop over it just fine. And I want to make sure that there's no waste getting kicked out from this container. And I do believe this little, food containment box is going to work out really well. And I don't think I'll have to make one any taller than this, but we will just keep an eye on them and see how things progress. I've been so busy, I haven't even realized this. I blended up 4 jars of food expecting that to last me maybe a week and a half. But what's bad is they haven't even finished 1 jar yet, and I just filled up the feeder, and it's day 9. That makes me realize kind of what I'm used to feeding them and having wasted. versus what is being used now. So I'm going to be able to calculate, because I've weighed all this per jar. I'll be able to calculate exactly how much I have fed them and how much it's going to cost me. But this is a significant savings. I mean, I know I would have already burned through 3 of these jars in the first week just because of waste and how many hatches I've done. So I'm really happy that I've been doing this and implementing some of the stuff that I've learned, because my food cost has been cut next level back as to what I was expecting. It's day 13 and we're still getting great results. The added box, the feeder, but these guys are almost coming up on 2 weeks old. So they, to me, are about to outdo this little setup. They're outgrowing it. So tomorrow we're gonna add in a pipe feeder, because at 2 weeks old, for a 2-inch pipe feeder, they're the perfect size for that. But these guys, this food waste experiment is going really well. And then I'm gonna show y'all the next step in how to save some money with your 2-week-old chicks and how to feed them. All right, so we've been testing our feeder and setup. It's working phenomenally. I did it a little bit longer than I planned, but day 10, I would have put my pipe feeder in already. But since today they're 2 weeks old, and we're coming to the end of this experiment. I've got my chicken nipples in here. I've taken their water away. I'm gonna give this a little tap, that way they can find some water. I'm gonna leave this in here for this evening. Then I'm gonna put their other water in them, let them fill up, and you see how fast, 2 weeks old, they can use these. But as some of you have probably been wondering what these inserts are that I've got here. Well, let me show you. Today, they get the 2-inch pipe feeder. That's what that hole is for right up here, and I just got a little insert in it. And I've just filled it up with food. And since they're so curious, it only takes one to discover what is inside of it. Now I'm still using up the blended food, and there they go, that quick. But they're gonna figure that out. They literally have already started to figure out the waters, and they haven't been in here just a few minutes. But I'm gonna keep tapping on the chicken nipples there. That way they can, they'll get that figured out. It only takes a couple to say, hey, this is where food and water is. All right, I've gotten some phenomenal results during this experiment. Now they're kind of varied, because I was kind of, making a lot of changes during this, because I had a lot of ideas, going through it. I was really, I've been thinking about things and put a lot of thought in the last couple of hatches, and I really wanted to implement it and see what changes it would make. And the results are phenomenal. Food cost, on average, I've done a lot of, I've had a few hatches. So you kind of got a general idea of how much food it's going to take to raise so many birds. And I keep everything in jars. So at the end of this hatch, when I realized I didn't even use a jar of food to raise 20 chicks, it's not bad. I had so much food waste before, it made me realize they were wasting like a couple of jars of food. That's crazy. I really wish I had have weighed it and written everything down. I weighed everything, and I figured about 44 cents a day per chick, which I don't think that's accurate. But still, I'm pretty sure that was my next food waste experiment. I'm going to fine tune some numbers, and I'm going to see how much it's going to cost per chick to raise out to 2 weeks in a brooder. But between modifying a feeder, making a food containment box, and then raising everything to certain heights, man, it's really cut down on my water being dirty. I'm no longer using pebbles in my water because they're nasty.
Like I would have to clean them daily. Raising the waterer to those heights kept them from getting food in it. Putting the water on one end, feeder on the other, kept them from transferring food to the waterer. So a lot of great results, you know, and ideas I've put into this kind of a food waste experiment. So now I'm gonna have to step back. There's a few things I'm thinking about tweaking and playing with. So we're gonna do a couple of hatches. I'm gonna try some different things, but I'm gonna tell you what, I'm not sure there's much more to improve on this. But I did learn so much. You know, I had to make a lot of notes, and I'm gonna implement these things and I'm gonna test them out. But the heights I was raising things, the food containment box, the heights I need to raise them to, which I am gonna test this, you know, my theories out and how to do these things. But keep an eye out. We're gonna be doing a food experiment 3. I'm gonna see what all adjustments I need to make. But I tell you what, I have finally figured out a way by making and doing some simple changes to drastically, and I do mean drastically, cut my chick food waste, which personally I did not think was possible. But I'm doing it. But guys, like, subscribe, check out my food containment box build, check out the little stand build, because I'm gonna make, you know, complete the video on how I made the little stands and how I'm raising them, how I modified my feeder. I'm gonna have a separate video on that. So there's a lot to this whole evolution to save food costs. But you know what, the work I'm putting in and how many hatches that I run, it's gonna save me a lot of money, and it's gonna save me a lot of mess to clean up, because there was so much food and waste. Like, I was having to clean this thing out every single day. And that's a big thing too, is I'm not having to do as much cleaning as I was before, because there's not food waste everywhere soaking up and getting stuck in the poo. But very happy right now with these results. Keep an eye out, because the final food waste experiment is going to be coming up very soon. Like, subscribe. I hope this helps you guys out, because I tell you what, this guy's going to be a very happy camper on my hatches moving forward.